Okay, I want to welcome everyone back to today's Kev Baker Show. And we've got a very, very special guest lined up for you today. I've got Jimmy Jeans here co-hosting with me today. And we are going to be joined by one of my personal favourite guests. I always remember hearing this gentleman the first time on Coast to Coast when I was just starting to take in a lot of podcasts. I just got into downloading MP3s and I couldn't get enough information into me. And I'll never ever forget the first time I heard L.A. Marzulli. And for those of you out there who might not know who he is, I can't imagine there'll be many people like that. But if you don't, L.A. Marzulli is an author, a lecturer, and a filmmaker. He's penned 12 books, including the Nephilim trilogy, which made the CBA bestsellers list. He received an honorary doctorate for the series from his mentor, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, who was the provost at Pacific International University. He was also honored with the Gold Medallion Award from Chuck Missler at the K House Conference in 2014, and his series On the Trail of the Nephilim 1 and 2 are full-color, oversized books which uncover startling evidence that there has been a mass cover-up of what he believes to be the remains of the Nephilim, the giants mentioned in the Bible. And I often refer to the story about the giant of Kandahar. And it was L.A. Marzulli who first told me that story, and it's always stayed with me. He's been working on UFO Disclosure most recently. We were just watching a little bit of his free documentary that you can find over on lamarzulli.net. I urge everyone to check that out. But right now he is here and he is with us live. L.A., how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys. Pleasure to be here as always.
So what's been going on? It's been a while since we've spoken last, but it would appear now the kind of topics that we used to talk about and people would roll their eyes at, they're kind of mainstream now, L.A. So what's going on?
Well, I mean, this is what I've been warning against for basically 30 years, and now it's here. I'm kind of taken aback myself because I never thought, in some ways, I never thought I would see what we're seeing, but it's here, which is why we made the film and rolled it out for free, because I just felt like, you know, we're doing okay. People need to see this. People need to see this and understand what's coming. Actually, what's already here, but is now being revealed. And this all started in 2017 with Tucker Carlson and Commander David Fravor, former F-18 fighter pilot, who stated on Tucker Carlson's show, primetime television in the United States, that whatever this tic-tac shaped object, this UFO, no rotor wash, no wings, no anything like an airplane, and it took off like a bullet out of a gun, 50 miles in basically 3 or 4 seconds. I mean, you're talking well above supersonic as far as speed. And he looked right at the camera and he said, whatever this was not from this earth. So what do you do with that? Well, I've been following this like white on rice since 2017, and I decided to rework the original film. It was my first independent film. It used to be called In Their Own Words, UFOs Are Real. So there's a lot of new footage. It's completely redone, completely re-edited. I'm actually working on part 2. I've got cameos by George Norrie, Nick Pope, Nick Redford, Gary Stearman. I mean, a whole host of people that come on the record. And that part 2 will be free once again. If you want the hard copy, you got to buy it. But you can stream it and watch it free all day long. And there's a reason for this, because how can I possibly charge for something as I feel is as important and crucial as this is? In fact, some of the information in it, Kevin and Jimmy, are just mind-numbing, and we'll get into that as time, you know, as we get on with the interview. But you know, it's free. You can just go to my website, lamarzulli.net, or streaming.lamarzulli.net. Watch it. You know, let's make it go viral. Unfortunately, it hasn't gone viral, which is just amazing to me. You would think we have the only film in all of Christendom at the moment that deals with this that I'm aware of. There might be others out there, but I don't know of them. So we have the only film, and you would think that my phone would be ringing off the hook. It's not, which
No.
just shows you the ambivalence of most pastors, most people, and the fact that, you know, we're here, guys. I mean, we're so far down the rabbit hole. I'm not making this up.
And on the flip
I'm
side
not.
of this, you've got one of the other big names in ufology, Dr. Stephen Greer. He's got information out there that all these aliens, they're all the good guys, right? They're coming, they're love and light, they're going to save humanity. But we don't really buy into that, do we?
No, not at all. In fact, you know, Greer and I are literally at loggerheads. We are on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum as far as what we believe that this phenomenon is. I believe it's nefarious, dark. I believe that these are messengers of deception. These entities can manipulate space, time, matter, and energy, as Gary Stearman calls them, these intruders. They take 5-year-old boys and implant them. They take other people and endlessly perform sadistic sexual experimentation on them. I mean, surely if they come from Zeta Reticuli, they wouldn't have to do that over and over and over again. There's a reason why they do it over and over and over again. It's because it creates fear, and they feed on the fear. Literally, it's called loosh, and they feed on it. I'm not making this up. These entities are nefarious. They're dark. They're evil. They have an agenda. They will, if you side with them, they will eventually kill you. That's what they do. And this is the coming great deception. And this is the problem. Let me explain what I mean. And I talk about this in the film. Darwinism is the present paradigm which the entire planet runs on. In the scientific community and in academia, everything is channeled through the Darwinian paradigm. That's it. So in Darwinism, there is no God, there is no supernatural, there are no moral absolutes. There's really no right or wrong. It's basically John Lennon's imagined song. I mean, that's what it is. No heaven, no hell, no sin, no right, no up, no down. You know, you don't continue after this, nothing to worry about. Well, then what's the purpose of living? If that's really the case, then who cares, right? Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may die. Who cares? But that's not the case. And people, and deep inside, they know that there is a God. And some people try to find them, like myself. Other people just go, nope, not going there. Don't care. I'm going to do it my way. Leave me alone. So the bottom line is with the Darwinian paradigm, which basically cut the knees off of Christianity and replace, in the West anyway, the Christian paradigm. It's no longer there. It's there in the churches, but if you call yourself a born-again, spirit-filled Christian, people laugh at you for the most part. The neo-Darwinists realized the fallacy of Darwinism. They realized that, you know, Charlie, you had some good points maybe, but it ain't working out. Why? Because DNA is in a fixed state. Yes, it will fluctuate a little bit. Yes, it'll accommodate, you know, the sparrow to get a bigger beak, but the sparrow is a sparrow. The sparrow is not turning into a humpback whale, and the humpback whale is not mutating into a sparrow. That ain't going to happen. And we see this repeated over and over and over again with DNA. Two hummingbirds meet, they propagate, they get hummingbirds. Penguins mate, they get penguins. Human beings mate, most of the time they get human beings. Let's hope so. So it's a fallacy. And the neo-Darwinists know the complexity of the code, the DNA code. They know about that. Darwin had no idea of DNA, had no idea. I would maintain and posit that if Darwin knew about the deoxyribonucleic double helix of life DNA molecular structure, he would have rescinded his theory, and he goes, nope, something else is going on here. I'm not sure what it is. So the neo-Darwinists go, well, you know, Charlie's wrong on this, but maybe, you know, faraway galaxy someplace, a bunch of aliens got together and created us. That's circular reasoning. Well, who created them? This had to come from somewhere. This complex code, and everything on planet Earth, everything has this DNA code. So the neo-Darwinists are looking out there in space. They're waiting for our progenitors. So when they show up, and by the way, they already have shown up, but when they really show up and reveal themselves, they will say these so-called ETs, these intruders, these so-called extraterrestrials, which are not extraterrestrials. They're nefarious interdimensional beings, in my opinion. But these entities will say this: we created all life on this planet. We started the world's civilizations. We genetically manipulated man. We started the world's religions. Now, at this critical juncture in human history, we are back to usher mankind into a golden age. So when you look around the planet, Cuba's on fire, South Africa's on fire, China's going and saber rattling with Japan, going like, you fool with us, with Taiwan, it's a full-scale war. I mean, that's laying down the gauntlet. That's it. That's a line in the sand.
Don't forget, you've
So
also
now,
got 200,000 Indian troops that are on the border with 200,000 Chinese troops as well. So there's big military maneuvers going on all around China right now.
I think we could be looking at, well, let me put it to you this way. The late David Flynn always believed that there would be a nuclear war. And in that nuclear war, after that, that's when they would show up. Gary Stearman has believed that. He doesn't really talk about it publicly. But I mean, and it's just conjecture, just like it's conjecture for me to say the same thing. I believe what Gary and the late David Flynn is saying. I think that we're on the precipice of a nuclear war. Then you throw the crazy mullahs in Iran in the mix, who announced today, we've got 90% enrichment, we can make the bomb. You know, it's just like, oh my God.
Exactly. And, I've said for some time, no man knows what's coming, like you said there. But even with everything we've been through for the past 18 months, the world hasn't changed enough yet for this new age to really take place, take root. And I think we've got to go through a hell of a lot more before we get there. And war is definitely one thing I'm keeping an eye on. And interestingly, this deception you're on about, you mentioned genetics, and just recently they said they'd finally cracked the entire genome. All that stuff that used to be junk DNA, now that's all been mapped out. And like you put forward in the documentary, I've noticed an uptick in the type of articles where you could start making a case where our DNA did come here from either a panspermia or a rock brought it here. So you can definitely see all the pieces, all the narrative coming together to support that,
Yes.
Ellie.
Well, you can, and that's why they're going to jump up and down. That's why guys like Greer, when he talks about the collapse of religion, he's right. The religions of the world will collapse. Most of them will collapse. There's no doubt about it, because these beings will appear as gods, and they'll say that, well, we were the gods that you worshipped in antiquity. So I'm calling this out our priority. So I'm not saying it, I've been saying this for like 30 years, guys. I've written about it. I produced films on it. I talk about it here on your show. It's going to happen. It's already happening, for crying out loud. It's the ultimate game changer. You think the COVID lockdown thing was a game changer? Wait till these guys show up. Everything changes.
Well, I
Life as
heard
we know it.
you talk about it as like a cosmic war, Ellie, right? This is on cosmic levels we're talking about here. And I love the way you describe the Bible like a handbook to the supernatural. I wish somebody had told me that when I was a younger kind of child. It would have been far more appealing to me back then if I'd known it and looked at it like that. But this deception, when you think about the fact they've been doing the DNA experimentation, things like that, there's every likelihood they're going to step off craft and look exactly like us. Wouldn't you agree?
I think that we are in for such a surprise. And see, I think the church isn't here. I think, in fact, there's a new series I think it's on Netflix. And the premise is 200 million people have just vanished, and we don't know where they've gone. Oh my gosh, they've just vanished off the planet, 200 million people. Sounds like the rapture to me. And you see, people look at the Bible, and it just cracks me up because they've never read it, but they know all about it, and they're going to tell you, well, yeah, the Bible will, it was rewritten a million times, and we can't possibly trust that. Well, excuse me, sir, have you ever read it? No, but, I've heard about it, so I kind of know everything about it. Well, that's called ignorance, because you have no idea what's in there, and you're arrogant because you think you know, but you don't know. And I'm not saying that glibly or, point a finger. I'm not doing that. It's the guidebook of a supernatural. It shows us what's going on. It talks about this cosmic war. It explains what the seed war is. It discusses the fallen angels, these intruders. It talks about the Nephilim, the seed war. It tells you why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, why the reason for the flood, why the mandate comes down to wipe everybody out in the promised land, and who the anti-Messiah, the Antichrist is, the one world government that you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade. Folks, that was written 2,000 years ago. You better wake up, and if you haven't read it, just go to the book of Revelation and good luck, because you won't understand it. You need the key to unlock the guidebook of a supernatural, and that key is Jesus. And if you think you know him, but you don't know him, then once again, you're arrogant and you're ignorant, because if you don't know him personally, then how can you say you possibly know him? That's the miracle. When you accept him and you bring him into your life, you become born again and spirit filled. Your life will never be the same, I promise you. And I've been on both sides of the aisle. I had a guru. My third eye was open. I was in the ashram. I did Carlos Castaneda Vision Quest. I had spirit guides. I lived both sides of the aisle, folks. I was there. And all I can tell you is when you actually meet him, everything changes. Your life will change, and change dramatically when he begins to come in. So if you say you know him, but you don't know him, then you don't know him. And that's an arrogant, ignorant statement.
You know, I was listening to one of your witnesses today. They had multiple stories. I think it was a Canadian guy. He had the story about the eyes changing and things, but he sounded like he'd been persecuted for years. But when he accepted Jesus, sure, he would maybe see the odd UFO now and again, but all that stopped, right? All that stopped. It's like when you hear about people with haunted houses. Once you invoke the name of Jesus, calms it down. So there's a lot to what LA's saying here. And again, you can watch that in the documentary that's free on his website. But could you tell the audience the story about what happened with the lady with the sunglasses on that he was trying to help, and the way she kind of, because that fits with a lot of testimony you hear.
So you're talking Al Matthews and the lady with the sunglasses, right?
Yes, yep.
So when Al told me this story, he was absolutely freaked out. He had not become a Christian. He was a lifelong abductee. He'd been taken numerous times. And when he got to me, he was freaked out. He was very emotional, deeply troubled because of what had happened. So he meets this woman. Al's a professional mover. He does real high-end moves for people, very expensive furniture. So he's really good at what he does. And he's really articulate. You'll see him on the film. He's a real smart guy, and he's really articulate. So
I'd actually mention to the audience, for me, when I was watching him, it's one of the most kind of, credible isn't the right word, but there's something about when he's telling you about his experience that you can see he's literally reliving it, you know?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's chilling. It's chilling to get the account. So Al meets this woman. She's coming in from Kuwait, and she's got these really dark wraparound glasses, almost like swimmer's glasses. I mean, they're like super skin tight. So he thinks, well, she's got an eye problem. And they talk for a while, and never met this woman at all. And at one point, I'll skip that one part and go to kind of cut to the chase here because we don't have that much time. But they're on a freight elevator going up to look at the woman's furniture and start moving stuff, right? So they're on a freight elevator, just the two of them, this woman and Al Matthews. She's got the dark glasses, pretty gal, but these really dark glasses, right? And they're on the freight elevator, and she leans over and whispers in his ear, "They're listening, Al." And he goes, "Who's listening?" And she goes, "You know, the Greys. I know that you've been taken many times, and so have I. We were supposed to meet on the ship." Now, Al in the interview says that creeped him out. That's an understatement. So he gives the woman his phone number. I call this UFO Brain Fog. And a couple of weeks later, she calls him up and invites him up for a drink. She's a couple of blocks away from Al's cottage. So Al takes her up on it. Goes in there. This woman's with her girlfriend, so it's two gals and Al. This woman is still wearing the dark glasses. We'll call her Diane because that's her name. And so they're drinking wine out of really large glasses, goblets almost. And so Al sits down and joins them. And he notices that there's like a huge fly, like a deer fly. If you know what a deer fly is, they're like really big. They're like over an inch long. And so Al goes, here, I'll go get a paper towel and I'll get the fly. She goes, oh no, I'll get it. And she leans over and she takes her finger and the fly sticks to her finger. The fly, she doesn't hold the fly like this. The fly sticks to her finger and she brings it up to her mouth, and about 6 inches away, she does this. Now, how can you do that? How can anybody do that? I mean, that in itself is bizarre. The fly gets sucked into her mouth. So he's totally freaked out at this point. And who wouldn't be? So she takes the glasses off as if it wasn't bizarre enough already with the fly, right? Are you kidding me? And who is the Lord of the Flies? Think about that. She takes the glasses off. She comes over. She straddles him. She sits on his lap. So I stop the film right there and go, Al, is this normal behavior for you? You know, you got a girlfriend. Would you allow this? And you can see he's never really thought about this before. This is what I call UFO brain fog. And his jaw drops and he goes, no. I mean, this is not normal behavior. It's like the first time someone's challenged him on it. And he's kind of going like, yeah, why am I doing this? UFO brain fog. And we talk about this in the film. You know, this woman, let me go down a rabbit hole. This woman, with a bunch of other women, girls, coming back from a dance, they see this light, they pull over, they all get out of the car, they realize that it's not a four-wheel drive mud running, it's a UFO over the treetops. They get freaked out, they get back in the car, and she goes, quick, to her sister who's driving, quick, let's get out of here. And this is what she says. We were speeding, but we weren't moving. We were speeding, but we weren't moving. How's that possible?
Just bizarre.
UFO brain fog.
Yeah.
It's impossible. UFO brain fog. So Al, for the first time, I challenge him. Al, is this normal behavior? And he's like, no, it's not normal behavior. And, you know, the woman, Diane, pulls up his shirt and goes, wow, you're well preserved. I mean, she's like acting like a seductress. That's what they do. And she leans over to kiss him, and he pushes her away, and the eyes shapeshift. The whites go yellow with like streaks in them, and the pupils get weird. And she's on the ground, and she lets out the most evil laugh you've ever heard in your life, according to Al. The most evil laugh. I mean, it was so evil, he fled the scene. He was terrified. And that's when he got to Gordy's house. That's when he calls me. And I pray with him over the phone. 2 weeks later, he becomes a Christian. And now the abductions have stopped, and all this other nonsense has stopped. So, look, we've counseled people before. I mean, Al's not the first person that we've done this with. There is a way out. And I talk about this at the very end of the film, right before the credits. I say, if you're interested in finding out more, you know, wait till after the credits. If not, fine. You know, I don't force it down anybody's throat. It's at the end of the credits. So, and I tell you exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
I pull no punches.
Myself and my son, we thoroughly enjoyed it, I must admit. And like I say, when I thought we weren't going to get in touch with you today, I'd started playing it for the audience. But it's totally free, folks. lamarzulli.net. You can find it on there. Now, one other thing I really want to kind of ask you about, taking a few notes, but the deep underground military bases, you touch on that as well, Ellie. And that's something that's always intrigued me, ex-military guy. I totally believe that there's vast complexes under the US, the UK, most advanced countries, but you spoke to people that have literally been in them. So what's that all about, man? What do you make of these places?
Well, I mean, there's another guy that we interviewed, very detailed, very intelligent man. He showed me all his paperwork. He was being groomed, and when he was taken down and he saw all this stuff, when he said, I'm not doing this, that's when it got crazy, and you know, they deplatform you, as it were. A lot of brainwashing happens. If in other words, if you go down and you don't want to play ball, okay. So next thing you know, you're in the brig and you're being given drug cocktails to erase your memory, which is what happened to him. But the other guy that I left in the film, who's anonymous, I don't know who he is, and I believed his story, which is why I left it in there. He's got a friend, and they were both, in the agency. This friend's son, so it's really secondhand information, works in an underground base side by side with these entities. We've heard this from too many people. I'm just one researcher, but other researchers have heard the same thing. It's real. It's there. And, this is what cracks me up, the little 9-page report that we get from our government talking about UFOs. Meanwhile, it was a 1,000-page report for the on the efficacy of bovine flatulence. 1,000 pages.
The way I look at that, that whole, from Tucker Carlson right up to the report coming out, it's quite interesting the target audience that they were aiming at, because it wasn't at the ufologists or the conspiracy people, it was at the mainstream. And like I say, a lot of the general public who would automatically turn away from this type of information, now they're looking skywards. Now they're looking at this information. Like I say, the stage could be set, Ellie, for what you call the ultimate deception.
Well, it is. It is, Kevin and Jimmy. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. Stephen Greer he's releasing a film for free talking about that very thing. But, in Greer's worldview, they're here to help us, and they will. I mean, they're going to couch it where, okay, you get this little implant, you'll live disease-free, you'll live longer at the 300 to 500 years disease-free. People will line up around the block. They will have.
It's almost like the series. Do you remember the series, the TV show V? Do you remember that one?
That's kind of what it's going to be like.
Yeah, because we've done a show on that recently. They had the whole viral thing going on. They had the promise of healthcare, live older, live better. But that's literally what we're kind of suggesting here, right? It's something along those lines.
Yeah, it'll be, Kevin and Jimmy, it'll be absolutely mind-boggling. The entire planet will shift. It'll just go like this, bam, and it will totally shift. Everything will be different. And I think it's probably sooner than later. I mean, I'm not a date setter, never have been. But look, I've been talking about this. You can go back on your other shows where we talked about UFOs. This is nothing new. And the fact that we've only got about 95,000 downloads is just, it's depressing to me. This thing should be going viral.
Because it's interesting. Because if this was something dodgy and it was one of these interactive internet activities and we were having propaganda, LA's downloads would be 10 times that. It would signal boost it. So the fact that the view count here compared to Jeremy Corbell, who releases really dodgy videos, he'll get like a couple of million views in a couple of days.
Yeah, how does that work?
Exactly. So if there's that thirst for this information, why isn't LA's getting out there? Any final thoughts, Ellie? Because I don't want to take up too much of your time today. Let people know about anything else you're getting up to. And of course, tell them again where they can find this documentary.
Well, Kevin, if you want to run the film on your channel, be my guest. Go for it.
Oh, I would absolutely love to do that.
Please do. I mean, let people see it. People need to understand that we are in a window of time which has been prophesied thousands of years ago. I'll give you a couple prophecies. Men faint from fear from what is coming upon the earth. Now, what does that mean? That's Jesus's words, telling us that in the latter days, it'll be like the days of Noah. So when you hear that, you've got to go research what the days of Noah was about. Guess what? What differentiates the days of Noah was the appearance of these intruders, these watchers came down, these watcher entities came down, had sex with the woman, creating a hybrid being known as the Nephilim. So you have prophecy. written thousands of years ago, pointing to exactly where we are now. Even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. Folks, watch the film. Go to my site, go watch it right here on Kevin's show. Please watch it and understand what's about to happen, because it's about to happen.
Wow, thank you, Ellie. Jimmy, any final thoughts for Ellie? You've been quiet. I know that Jimmy kind of takes it all in when it's the UFOs, don't you, Jim?
No, I've just been listening, and I just, I find it interesting in the alternative media consistently proving out that when some real information comes out, some truth, a lot of people don't for some reason ever find it, It's like when you had the interview with Jordy Rose and he didn't align with what people had been saying about him. The video didn't get that many views, but there it was, a beautiful interview with great information, just like we're having today with LA. And, man, what I always wonder, and I'm just curious if I was going to ask you one question, it would be just simply because we were talking a little bit about before you got here. Is there any connection to Rh negative bloodlines in any of this? In other words, with contactees or with the actual insertion of this into the earth for manipulation?
The Rh negative blood stuff makes me wonder. And that's all I'll say. I've been researching it. It makes me wonder. The problem is it's a very slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
We go down there and all of a sudden anybody that has Rh negative blood, is a Nephilim or star baby or whatever. We can't do that.
I'm Rh negative and I'm AB negative, and I talk about it on the air. But in the alternative media, of course, there's lots of people that are looking to see if my eyes get weird when I look side to side because they think I'm a lizard, But I'm not. No.
And that's what I caution people who want to go down that rabbit hole, because that's a very, very slippery slope.
Well, thank you, Ellie, and we will definitely be helping to get the word out about your video.
Thanks, guys.
No, thank you, sir. And I'll have this up on YouTube probably a couple of hours from now. Ellie, thanks for your time. And let's not leave it so long next time, right?
Please. Thank you, Kevin. God bless you guys. Take care.
Catch you later, brother. Bye-bye.